Agora que está toda a gente a falar sobre estes influencers que foram a Israel, contratados pelo Estado de Israel para branquear aquilo que eles estão a fazer na Palestina, tanto em Gaza como na Cisjordânia, eu queria relembrar uma história que vivi lá no final do ano passado, na Cisjordânia, para relembrar que existe um opressor e um oprimido há 70 anos, mas que no meio disto tudo, quem sofre são as pessoas. E aquilo que estes influencers estão a branquear é o sofrimento destas pessoas, que são como eu e como tu.
I want to tell you a story of an old woman who's living in a refugee camp in Ramallah. Her name is Halima. Halima, she was 15 years old when the Nakba happened. As a young girl, they went by foot east until they arrived in Ramallah. Can you imagine? She lives in a refugee camp in the West Bank, only 40 kilometers from her original village, which is called Beit Nabala. And since then, she had never ever went to her village. Palestinians in the West Bank, they don't have the right to movement anywhere. So I went to the camp. She brought two of her friends with her, everyone like 90 years old. And on that day, Ziad, he got a permission to a hospital in Jerusalem. I put them all in the car and we were heading to Beit Nabala, her village. So I remember when we were on the street driving this road that I showed you, they started, singing songs. When we arrive at another place, they choose different songs. And then at that time, my heart was really beating because, you're taking these old ladies with you with their Palestinian embroidered dress for the first time to see their village. It was really emotional. So we arrived at the village. The village was destroyed. I remember when we opened the doors of the car, they started, wandering around, collecting plants and dirt and everything. And they started recalling stories like, this was the house of my uncle Abu Mustafa. At some point, these old ladies, they became 15 years old again. They were like jumping and going through the walls and everything. And after spending 2 hours in Beit Nabala, I told them, Yallah, let's go back to the refugee camp. On that moment, they said, no, we don't want to go back to the refugee camp. We've been dreaming of this moment for 70 years. Leave me here, I can't sleep here, this is my father's grave there, I can't just sleep next to it. When I was going to return back to the refugee camp, Ziad told me something shocking. He told me, listen Tariq, do you know that my aunt Halima, she has never ever seen the sea in her life? I was like, okay, I have